This transformational way is a strange one. It's almost as though its potential is dormant a lot of the time. Agitation, which is the shadow, is ever present. Until we begin to look within, we never realize the depth of our agitation. It's like when we first begin to meditate. It's such a shock. It's not like we close our eyes and find it easy, peaceful, and calm inside. Usually, we suddenly realize the terrible truth about how screwed up we feel and how crazed our mind is, leaping from one thing to the next, never giving us a break. If we're brave enough to stay with the process and explore deeper, we'll find the same frequency extends into our emotional system. After some time, we'll hit these inner walls of anxiety and fear. We don't even know what they are. They seem to be so primal in origin. We can sit with it, and it's just there, immobile inside us. Our agitation runs deep, and it's a tangled web. It takes some courage to plumb the depths of our discomfort. When we say that every shadow contains a gift, it may sound simple, but the reality is that the process of getting the diamond out of that mountain of coal is pretty intense. Not everyone is ready for it. This transformational way and its dilemma of harshness teach us how to deal with the inner discomfort of our shadows. When we face discomfort, our immediate pattern tends to be reacting to it with harshness. At the shadow level, we do one of two things: repress or resist. We might turn and run, distracting ourselves and diving back into our denial in some way, thus repressing the pattern. Or we try and correct and fix the pattern through resistance. We tense up and start trying to resolve it by fighting against it. Maybe we go to therapy, try yoga, or meditate even harder. It's a natural human tendency to want to be free of something uncomfortable and try and shrug it off. It's like the fable by Aesop about the competition between the north wind and the sun. They have a contest to prove who's stronger by stripping a man of his cloak. The harder the north wind blew, the more the man pulled his cloak tighter around himself. Then the sun began to shine and warmed the man until he became so hot that he removed his cloak. The moral of Aesop's fable is, gentleness and kind persuasion win where force and bluster fail. We're like this because we tend to take the harsh approach with ourselves. However, this transformational way teaches us how to turn shadows to our advantage instead of feeling victimized. There are two paths through the dilemma of harshness. We can wait it out, sit and watch the pattern, and observe ourselves observing it. We watch our mind struggling and struggling until eventually our mind gives up, the sun comes out, and we're through to the other side. The Buddha taught that approach. The other approach is to use creativity, which is the core of the transitional way of initiative. We use the energy and direct it outwardly in a creative direction. For example, agitation can play out in our relationships. Two wounded human beings come together and fall in love. Once the infatuation or honeymoon period is over, the chemistry of the underlying agitation will show itself. It always surfaces eventually because it's so deeply rooted. Now we have two states of agitation interacting. Riding this wave and staying together through the process is incredibly challenging. If we don't have some experience with meeting this state within ourselves, we don't really stand much chance when it arises in the context of a relationship, because we just project it onto the other person. We blame them, they blame us, and we know the mess that causes. It's all because we most often resort to harshness. We snap at each other and then blame ourselves. We feel bad because we've been harsh, and then we propagate the harshness inside ourselves and the relationship. Most people never really stood a chance in the first place. Incarnation on this planet is pretty rough. We're not taught these basics. In the I Ching, this transitional way is very powerful and is represented by sudden flashes of thunder and lightning. It can be deeply disruptive, but it also brings huge possibilities with it. It can even be instantaneous depending on how we approach the shadow. We must watch ourselves carefully and be aware of our tendency toward harshness. At times of intense change, the quality most needed is gentleness. We see this through the gift of this transformational way, which is initiative. This gift is also something we have to claim. It doesn't just happen to us. We have to move toward the light as well as it coming down into us. We can gain a deeper understanding of a transformational way by looking at its Siddhi, the enlightened knowledge it leads to. If we can see where the energy is guiding us, then that could be a point of illumination. This transitional way is a path from agitation to awakening. How do we make that huge transition when agitation and awakening seem such a long way from each other? Awakening is like an hourglass. On one side we have the shadow, on the other side we have the Siddhi, and in the middle we have the narrow neck of the gift. From the perspective of the shadow, we appear locked into the glass, trapped by the endless cycles of our agitation. But when we look at everything from the perspective of enlightened knowledge, time itself dissolves. We experience the boundless dimension, so there's no end to that side of the hourglass. The sand just goes on forever and ever. It's infinite. What's interesting is that the two places where the way to awakening is the same for everyone is at the shadow and the Siddhi. It's only unique in the middle, at the gift. When we experience the shadow of agitation, no matter who we are, it feels the same, uncomfortable and persistent. It's human suffering. It's universal, and we're all born into it. From the other side of awakening, it's also the same, freedom. When one person experiences that freedom, it's the exact same feeling as another person's freedom. No matter how they got there, no matter what expression it takes, no matter what Siddhi it's refracted through, or what language, or not, they choose to frame the awakening with, it's the same experience. It's identical. It's a nice symmetry that the shadow and the Siddhi are the same for us all. The gift is the path from one side to the other. It's the neck of the hourglass. It's a narrow path, our path through our suffering. It's utterly unique because it heads out into the wilderness of our own inner planes. Guides can sometimes be a distraction, and it's tricky to walk our own path because there are so many unconscious influences. That's why this gift is called the gift of initiative. Every gift has this same urge to break new ground. Every gift is inherently creative and original, so how can we follow another? Great teachers can be an inspiration and provide impetus. They can encourage and enthuse us, and they can serve as guideposts to show us a way, but they can't walk it for us. That's what the gift of initiative is about. It's about having the courage to trust in the direction of our own feet, and it's about how we deepen that trust. Even these keys don't define our path for us. They lay out a matrix of transformational ways we can choose from, but they don't say, well, you have the 51st key as your life's work, so you have to do this meditation or take that action. They simply offer us a mirror. That's what a teacher is. He or she is a mirror of truth, but they can't tell us every step to take. They can only provide encouragement and guidance to find our own way. The 51st gift is a great invitation to each of us, and its partner is the 57th gift of intuition. Only our intuition can show us the way forward, and intuition requires subtlety and softness. We can't fall victim to the harshness. We have to have courage and practice following our intuition. There will be many mistakes when we don't. The mind wants the security of a defined path. It wants a fixed teaching and technique. Teachings don't really give us that. Even contemplation is hard to define. The Tao can't be defined. There are indicators, though, and gentleness is a great indicator. We can each take heart from this key. It supports the unknown. Our correct path in life can't be copied, and we aren't going to get the answers out of any profile. Taking the initiative means we find our own interpretation. We find our own creative way through the minefield of the shadow. We must go into the agitation and get to know it. We need to create a softness around it, a spaciousness, a trust in the discomfort. We need to learn to yield to the energy and surrender to the experience. It's like Tai Chi. When our opponent comes at us, we energetically lean into their thrust rather than opposing it. It's counterintuitive. Only when we go towards the obstacle can we find its correct relationship to us. We can redirect it in a spontaneous, creative way, and the other guy flies across the room. We don't really know how it happened, and if it happened again, it would never happen in exactly the same way, even though he'd still go flying across the room. What the 51st gift does is ask us to approach difficulties with creativity. Instead of giving into harshness and propagating the agitation further, we can create our way through and out of the situation. To experiment with this gift, you can go inside yourself, locate a problem in your life, and find a source of agitation. It won't take long. We all have them. Instead of worrying about it, lean into it with softness. Trust it. Feel the energy of it. Let it flood you and listen to it. We fear we'll drown in it if we surrender to feeling it, but it's treating ourselves harshly that causes suffering, not allowing ourselves to experience the feeling of agitation. If we maintain an attitude of gentleness toward ourselves instead of harshness, it won't be a painful experience. We can then allow our intuition to penetrate the problem. We can be creative and allow possible solutions to emerge. One of the things we'll notice is that it's usually the way we've been thinking about a situation as the problem. When we put aside harsh judgments toward ourselves, we can find a new way of thinking about it, letting our intuition guide us. We can soften into it and let it glide past us. Imagine what life feels like without this problem. It's a process. The gift is all about transformation. It's alive. It's wonderful. It's alchemy. It's also a skill that requires practice to develop. We have to take the initiative. The definition of being a victim is someone who doesn't have the initiative. As long as we do take the initiative, the energy moves. It has to. The external may not change so much right away. That may take a bit longer. But the internal completely changes. As we start to transform our wounds into creative opportunities, we change the way the world spins around us. We change the pattern of our destiny. We no longer trap ourselves in a narrow set of parameters or remain stuck in the narrow net of the past or the future. We imbibe the living energy and wonder of the ever-changing present. The Siddhi leads us towards consciousness. This 51st gift is essential, and it's so important to take some time to lean into our problems, issues, worries, agitations, and create our way out of them. Breathe life into it and learn to let it go. The better we do this, the more we'll relish our joys and transformation. creativity at every level. There's no use looking outside of ourselves for an answer. Look inside. The depth of beauty and originality we'll find is infinite and astonishing. That's how we deal with the shadow. The gifts take the energy of the shadow and make it work for us. At certain points in our journey, we move through initiations, periods of intensity in which we undergo huge transmutations. True initiation is not something that can be predicted or ritualized. It is a part of life's natural evolution. Neither does it require any learning or religious or spiritual affiliation. True initiation is a rare process that one always undergoes alone. When we pass through them, they are often dramatic and challenging to integrate into our lives. This is what awakening really is, and there are layers and levels to it. No one knows when an awakening or initiation will sweep through our being. It's always a shock, and this 51st key is a thunderbolt, which represents permanent and indestructible change. The quality most needed in order for us to move through an initiation is gentleness and softness. We find this insight in the partner of the 57th key. The 51 is the shock of thunder, while the 57 is the softness of the flowing wind. To meet thunder, we need to be soft. We need to be pliant and yielding. Awakening is really a series of softenings. Our heart and mind become softer and more open. Whenever we're confronted with harshness, the unexpected, noise, turbulence, and the thunder of life, instead of tensing up, we need to relax and open, soften, and become milder. Mildness is the essential quality needed to allow spiritual initiation. In fact, as we become more yielding, our consciousness expands to encompass wider and wider vistas and possibilities. It's a beautiful paradox, as every Siddhi is. We need never be afraid of or resistant toward disruption, because it always brings an opportunity for initiation or awakening. We have only to let it in, and that requires us to cultivate this inner quality of spaciousness, softness, and trust. Then, and only then, the miracle can occur.